gentlemen. My name is Eric Bernstein. I'm General Counsel for the Franklin Township Sewerage Authority, and I am the temporary chairperson for what is a reorganization meeting of the Franklin Township Sewerage Authority. Let me read the opening statement. In accordance with the provisions of Chapter 231 of the New Jersey Public Laws of 1975, also known as the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by giving notice to the Courier News, posting the agenda in the public lobby of this building 48 hours prior to this meeting, delivery of this notice to the Franklin Township Clerk at least 48 hours prior to this meeting, and mailing notice to those persons properly requesting to be mailed notification of meetings at least 48 hours prior to this meeting. Ms. Roach, can we take a roll call of the currently sworn-in members?
Mr. Ann Berenson?
Here.
Ms. Ford?
Here.
And Chairman Galtier.
Here. With that, there is a quorum of the membership, so the first order of business is the swearing in of the two new members who still have a chance to get out. Mr. Alcazar, do you have anybody here who you wish to hold the Bible?
Okay.
As I said, there's a good chance to change your mind. Put your hand on. Are we picking up?
Yes.
I state your name.
I, Jesus Alcazar,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the state of New Jersey,
and the state of New Jersey,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and to the governments established
and to the governments established
in the United States
in the United States
and in this state
and in this state
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all the duties
all the duties
of
of
alternate number one member
alternate number one member
to the Sewerage Authority
to the Sewage Authority
of the Township of Franklin
for the Township of Franklin,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And with that, would you, True, please sign the life away? Mr. Schmidt.
Yes, sir.
You want to hold the Bible, or you want to go without? It's up to you.
I brought a Constitution.
Absolutely. Okay.
Nobody's here for me because nobody loves me.
I know that feeling very well. I'll hold it for you before you place your right hand or left feet. I state your name.
Arnold Schmidt. I, Arnold Schmidt,
Do affirm
do affirm
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United
and
States
the Constitution
and the
of
Constitution
the State of New Jersey,
of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and to the governments established
and to the governments established
in this state
in the state
and in the United States
and the United
under
States
the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and
justly
perform
all the duties
all the duties
of the office of alternate number 2
of the office of alternate number 2
of the Franklin Township Sewerage Authority
of the Franklin Township Sewerage Authority
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And since we couldn't talk either one of them out of taking the job, if you'll fill in the rest, Mr. Schmidt, if you'll sign. And with that, Ms. Roach, can we now have another roll call?
Mr. Alcazar?
Here.
Mr. Ann Berenson?
Here.
Ms. Ford?
Here.
Mr. Schmidt?
Here.
And Mr. Galtieri?
Let the record reflect at least this time that both Ms. DeVoe and Mr. Tawari are absent. Next item of business, Pledge of Allegiance. Everybody rise. Mr. Nacero, would you lead us?
Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have read the statement for the purpose of the record as to this reorganization meeting. The next order of business is the nomination of chairperson for the period of February 2020 through the next reorganization meeting in February 2021. Do I have any nominations?
Chairman, I nominate Commissioner Will Galtieri for the position.
Is there a second to Commissioner Galtieri's nomination for chair?
Second.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, do I have a motion to close nominations?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of closed nominations signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Roll call on the nomination of William Galtieri for chairperson of the Franklin Township Sewerage Authority. Ms. Roach.
Mr. Alcazar?
Aye.
Mr. Berenson?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
And Mr. Galtieri?
Thank you.
You want the chair?
No, I'll stay here. I mean, that's great.
No, please go down.
You have to go down there because
I prefer to have my attorney.
Because you're scaring,
No,
because you're
not the
scaring
person.
Brian.
I prefer to have my attorney on my right-hand side.
Thank you. All right, thank you all.
Congratulations.
All right. This isn't my chair. All right. Moving right along. Nominations of vice chairperson. Do we have a nomination for the vice chair?
Nominate Miss DeVoe for my chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Are there any other nominations for the position of vice chair? Okay. Is there a motion to close nominations for vice chair?
Motion to close.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of closing nominations for vice chair, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Anybody opposed? Okay. So I guess a roll call, please, for the nomination of Ms. DeVoe as vice chair.
Mr. Alcazar?
Yes.
Mr. Berenson?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri?
Yes. All right. So just so the new commissioners know, the rule is if you miss a meeting, you're probably getting appointed to something without knowing it. So, all right. So this sets up for the next one too. Is there a nomination for the secretary treasurer?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I nominate Mr. Tivari.
Okay. Is there a
Second.
All right. See, I told you. Are there any other nominations for the position of Secretary Treasurer? Okay. Is there a motion to close nominations for the position of Secretary Treasurer?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of closing nominations for Secretary Treasurer, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right. Can we do a roll call, please, for Mr. Tiwari as Secretary Treasurer?
Mr. Alcazar?
Yes.
Mr. Berenson?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri?
Yes. All right, and this is the pile you get to sign also as Secretary Treasurer for the new commissioners. All right, as for nomination for Assistant Secretary Treasurer, I'd like to nominate Teresa Ford as the Assistant Secretary Treasurer.
I second.
Do I have to sign it?
Well, yeah, if the Secretary Treasurer is not here, but don't worry, we'll get in touch with Mr. Torrey for this pile. But okay, are there any other nominations for the position of Secretary Treasurer, or Assistant Secretary Treasurer? Seeing none, is there a motion to close nominations for Assistant Secretary Treasurer?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Okay. All those in favor of closing nominations for Assistant Secretary Treasurer, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right. Can we have a roll call, please, for the for Ms. Ford as Assistant Secretary Treasurer?
Mr. Alcazar?
Yes.
Mr. Berenson?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri?
Yes. So this is not a punishment. This is more that I know Ms. Ford will be here. So, all right. Do I have a script for everything? Yes, I do. Sorry. Okay. Just feel out of order. Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm reading incorrectly. All right, is there a nomination? Oh no. So there's the resolution, and now we're on to resolution. So there's no nominations. All right. Is there a motion to approve the resolution appointing, with appointment of the consulting engineering CME Associates? Sorry, is there a motion for that?
Motion.
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar?
Yes.
Mr. Ian Barronson?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri.
Yes.
Thank you very much, and we look forward to working with you again for another year.
I thought it was Mike.
Oh, he's got a new voice. All right. Congratulations to CME Associates. All right. Is there a motion to approve the resolution appointing for the appointment of the auditor for Hodgelick and Morrison, PA?
Motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar?
Yes.
Mr. Ian Barronson?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri.
Yes. All right. Is there a motion to approve the resolution for the appointment of general counsel to Eric M. Bernstein and Associates, LLC?
Motion.
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar?
Yes.
Mr. Ian Barronson?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri.
Yes.
Chairman, on behalf of my firm and my new associate, Mr. McClellan, I would thank you for
Thank goodness I have a script. Is there a motion to approve the resolution of making TD Bank the official depository?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar?
Yes.
Mr. Ian Barronson?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri.
Yes. All right, is there a motion to approve the resolution for signatures for chairperson, secretary, treasurer, executive director, and acting executive director?
Motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar?
Yes.
Mr. Ian Barronson?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri.
Yes. Is there a motion to make the Courier News the official newspaper?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar?
Yes.
Mr. Ian Barronson?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri.
Yes. Is there a motion to approve the resolution for reauthorizing a petty cash fund?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar?
Yes.
Mr. Ian Barronson?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri.
Yes. Is there a motion to approve the resolution for the reappointment of April L. Roach as the QPA or qualified purchasing agent?
Motion.
The second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar?
Yes.
Mr. Ian Barronson?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri.
Yes. Okay, is there a motion to approve the resolution reappointing, for the reappointment of April L. Roach as the PACO or Public Agency Compliance Officer?
Motion.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar?
Yes.
Mr. Ian Barronson?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri.
Yes. I just have a note here. It says, is there a motion to approve the resolution for the bond counsel services? Do we have who that is, just so we can enter into the record?
McManaman.
McMahon.
Scotland and Bowman.
Okay. Okay. Is there a motion?
So moved. Yeah.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar?
Yes.
Mr. Ian Barronson?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri.
Yes. Is there a motion to approve the resolution for financial consulting services? This would be with NW Financial.
Western.
Okay. So is there a motion?
Motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar?
Yes.
Mr. Ian Barronson?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri.
Yes. All right. Okay. So for appointment of committees, I would ask that Ron, you stay on with me with the negotiation and personnel.
Yes.
Just so we have continuity for this. Okay. So for municipal liaison, I see there's 2 spots. Typically we do 1, but what I think this is, we have a good opportunity here to do a little bit of expansion of knowledge transfer also. So Ram, I would like you, because you have the position, but also Teresa to have a little bit of information also. So the 2 of you to work hand in hand. This way if somebody's not here, and also it gives an opportunity for another commissioner to interact with the council. So I think that, so if you would accept those positions?
Yes.
And then I guess we have to do a vote on the positions, or?
Do a vote at the end.
Okay. Construction. All right, so Mr. Tawari, as I said, if you're not here, you get appointed. So Mr. Tawari, but also Ram, if you would continue going on with that, given that you have the knowledge of what's going on with the recent projects. And then safety, I forget who was on this before. I know it was Brianna.
I was not on.
Would you like to be on safety?
Oh,
You just get notified when if there's incidents
that's
And
fine.
Scott, I know everybody does very well to try to avoid any injuries, so I don't think you get too many phone calls. So I actually would like Ms. Ford and Brianna to serve on those.
Okay.
All right. All right.
Motion to approve.
Is there a motion to approve this? I guess the list as presented. Do we need to read them back, or we can? Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar?
Yes.
Mr. Van Barnson?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri.
Yes. All right. So with that, is there a motion to open for public comment?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of opening for public comment, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. Would anybody like to come forward and say anything? All right. Seeing no public come forward, is there a motion to close for public comment?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of closing for public comment, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? With that, is there a motion to adjourn the reorganization meeting?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
I guess roll call, correct? No? All in favor of closing the reorganization meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you, everybody. Congratulations. And we'll get to our next meeting in 10 minutes. All right, 6:32. All right, roll call, please. Yep, can we do a roll call, please?
Mr. Alcazar?
Here.
Mr. Van Barnson?
Here.
Ms. DeVoe?
Here.
Ms. Ford?
Here.
Chairman Galtieri.
Here. All right, if everybody can please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I'm here too.
Yeah, Mr. Schmidt's here,
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For purposes of the quorum, let the record indicate that Mr. Schmidt is also here, but with Ms. DeVoe here, Mr. Schmidt is not a voting member for any part of the meeting going forward unless there's an extension. Or let me phrase it, an excused member who cannot vote.
All right, in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 231, New Jersey Public Laws of 1975, the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by the giving of notice to the Courier News, posting the agenda in the public lobby of this building 48 hours prior to this meeting, delivery of this notice to the Franklin Township Clerk at least 48 hours prior to this meeting, and mailing notice to those persons properly requesting to be mailed notification of meetings at least 48 hours prior to this meeting. Is there a motion to open the meeting for public comments?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of opening the meeting for public comments, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right. Seeing no public will come forward. Is there a motion to close the meeting for public comments?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of closing the meeting for public comment, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, so for the commissioners, has everybody had a chance to look at the working session monthly board meeting minutes from January 7th, 2020, and the executive session monthly board meeting minutes from January 7th, 2020?
For purposes, Mr. Chairman, of the regular meeting, all members who are present are available to vote on it except Mr. Schmidt and Mr. Alcazar.
Any corrections, changes, suggestions? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the working session monthly board meeting minutes from January 7th, 2020?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar?
Aye.
Mr. Van Barnson?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri?
Yes. All right, is there a motion to,
Mr. Alcazar's motion.
okay, is there a motion to approve the executive session monthly board meeting minutes from January 7th, 2020?
Same eligible group as for the regular.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Van Barnson?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe? Yes. Ms. Ford?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri?
Yes. Let's move on to professional reports. Mr. Executive Director. Good
Thank you,
evening.
Mr. Chairman. Okay, so for our new commissioners here today, in your packet, you'll see a professionals report. It says executive summary, and then there's also one that says executive director report. So we'll start with the one that says the executive summary report. First, I want to extend a welcome to our two new commissioners and offer you that there's a lot of information in these packets with reports. You get reports from our professional engineers, and then I give a summary of what that is. You naturally are welcome to read the detailed reports, but as the executive director, I expect that the board expects me to have an understanding of what's going on at these reports and be able to talk about the projects. So that's why when I started as executive director nearly 2 years ago, I started with this process of adding in this summary report to talk about it and share. Naturally, there's a lot of information that is based upon past history that we've talked about. So information tonight, if it's kind of is going past you, don't worry about that. And I offer you, come in, make an appointment with me, and we'll take you out to the various pump stations and sites, so that way you can get a much more in-depth discussion and readout on what's going on. I will make my schedule available to yours, even if that means a Saturday morning or staying late on an evening. I'll be glad to do that for you. Okay. So the first part, legal, there are no significant issues, though tonight we will have an executive session. The Marcy Streets sanitary sewer rehab, again, as we've reported over the last few months, that remains on hold until we get through the New Jersey I-Bank funding process. Hamilton Street Pump Station. So our color there remains green. The contractor's portion of that was for $3 million, a little over $3 million as it's written there. We had a construction meeting on January, sorry, missed that on the thing. We had a meeting on January 16th. And that meeting went well. The progress is on schedule. We're submitted tonight. We submitted the pay app number 4 for $92,845.44. So the project on a whole is moving along. I visited at multiple sites. Last week, actually, on Friday, Joe and Scott were out there, and we were visiting with the contractor. Again, no major issues, moving along. And For the financial aspect of this project, it is also green, where we are at 46% of the construction administration budget expended and 46% of the construction budget as expended. The construction admin budget is tied to our professional services, whereas the construction budget is the actual construction firm itself. So again, everything's moving well right now on Hamilton Street.
So Brian,
Go ahead.
just a question. When is the targeted completion date for that one?
So the targeted completion date is,
I was just looking for that here.
yeah, October timeframe.
October 7 is the final completion. Substantial completion is 30 days prior, which would be approximately September 2nd.
Okay.
All right.
And with the weather so far, they've been able to keep up. And
Yeah, there's been no really breaks or pauses due to weather related.
The
been able to
building
move
work
along.
should be starting
Yeah.
this coming week,
Okay.
the block, the superstructure.
And it looks like it's going to be warm. I mean, wet, but warm over the next couple of days.
The wet's gonna be a little.
Well,
wet,
yeah.
but-
I guess you can.
Yeah.
But I'm not going there. But I'm
Yeah.
just saying that it's at least not cold. That I'm sure there's a little bit of stuff that can be done, right?
Yeah. And for new commissioners, so it's the Hamilton Street pump station is actually on Hamilton Street. So if you were going down from here, if you were going down to New Brunswick, it would be on the left-hand side near the church, the St. Paul's Church. So that's the area there. You've probably seen it if you've gone that way, and if you were wondering what it is, you now know what it is. And you now know you are responsible for it. All right, moving on to the Somerset Street pump station, which is not on Somerset Street. It's actually on Brookline. So relative to the pump station itself, again, we're green. We continue to, Howard has reached out. He did receive a pay application from Grade. However, as we had talked about in the past, we knew that there would be some going back and forth on that discussion of it. Howard's in the midst of that now. We would expect that at the March board meeting we would come with final approval on that. Howard and I have already discussed it. Once he gets to a level of reviewing it and his comments, then he'll bring it to me and Scott for our final review at that point on how to move forward. For our newest members, this pump station is up and running. It's just that we're at kind of the final end of really minor work that has to be done. Okay, and the financial colors of it are green also.
Okay.
All right, moving on to the next page. So the next one is the East Millstone pump station. So down by the firehouse, that's right on before you go across the Amwell Causeway, there's a small pump station that's there now. It is not an enclosed pump station. It's basically protected by like some shelving, and so we put in our budget last year, our capital budget, to start that, to enclose that. So CDM Smith is the consulting engineer on that project. We've just reached the agreement since the last meeting. We did have a meeting in Trenton that I gave a report out. No, actually, I indicated we were having that meeting. We did have that meeting down in Trenton, and everything went along. Actually, it went along very smoothly. There were probably a dozen different departments or agencies that were in on that call, and no one had any really major concerns. I was able to explain to them what was going on, and then naturally Howard really had the lead in the meeting. I just filled in every now and then. So we expect that we would be hearing favorable report from them on that without any action items. Okay, this one tentatively, if everything goes well, we'll be awarding the bid in August of this year, and active construction is planned for early 2021. Okay, so that really is the projects, And now I'm gonna turn it over to our IT vendor.
Quick,
Oh,
before
I'm
we go to
sorry.
that, so Somerset, have we been out there much? I know it's been raining more.
Oh, I was gonna go over that,
Okay.
in my,
That's fine.
ED report.
I
Yeah,
thought it, sorry, I thought I saw it somewhere on the
Yeah, it
agenda.
is.
That's
Yeah.
fine, we can,
Yep.
okay. But before we go on that, anybody have
Any
any
other
other
questions
questions?
on any of the projects?
I just have a question on, everything is green, and I'm guessing green means everything is
Yeah.
progressing, it's a go or something?
Right, so I have three color schemes, green, yellow, and red. Green means everything's on schedule, the enhancement over the last few months is, I talk about green relative to the project, to the construction aspect of it, and then also to the financials of it. And then if it's yellow, it generally means there's potentially an issue that looks like it may affect the end date, but we're dealing with it at the moment. And then red means, yeah, there's a blocker here and some significant issues need to be addressed, and it may call for a replan.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right, Mr. Danielson, if you would give an update on the IT infrastructure plan, please?
Good evening, everybody, and welcome new commissioners. So everything was working fine. As I normally report, the email filtering service is continually blocking malicious emails coming through, which is our largest vector of security breach. I also reviewed the firewall traffic and those reports, and it's doing an impressive job of PPAC inspection and scanning for inappropriate websites and viruses right at the firewall as well. All the hardware in the agency has been upgraded, and it's in production and functioning. The data storage and management issue kind of been put on temporary hold till we can schedule with the vendors. I'm looking to improve the wireless signal. With this wireless firewall, I intentionally wanted to get it deployed to see how good the transmission would be from where it is sitting in the IT room. It looks like we need a wireless beacon, which is extended from that, mounted somewhere central in the building. So I will give a quote to the agency for that. I continually cleaning up old policy objects from the previous vendor that are now obsolete. It's actually not a menial thing, but it's the IT policies that make things happen in the background. That also included disabling and deleting old and unused accounts, and accounts that were marked with passwords that never expire has been changed. I also did deploy all the policies we spoke about, Chairman, in the past, the password policy, the display last user logon, and the lock the screen after timeout. That's all been implemented. I did work with the video security company this past week, or last week, and help them network their DVRs so they're remotely accessible through the app. Okay. There's 2 DVR systems, and I had to customize the firewall so they would work with inbound connections in addition to outbound connections. The iPads, 2 new members, we have iPads, the agency has iPads for you. There'll be a little delay in getting that to you, along with returning Commissioner Ford's iPad, because we needed to rebuild her iPad, but the Apple account, nobody had the password. We communicated with April and First Look, and the password we have on documentation is not working, so we have to reset it, which then will...
So I can tell you why that is. So it's because they use one password across all the devices, so somebody might have somebody might have changed it. So we might want to change the individual accounts at some point then, if you want to do that. Or however you want. I'll leave that to you, but...
Well, let's talk about it.
Yeah, we can. But that's why, because I got a notification. So good thing I didn't, because I got a notice saying, please reset your Apple password. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do that.
So somebody probably did it. All right.
So somebody might have done it. So that's probably...
I have new commissioners. I have 2 email accounts for you. But coincidence, there was a glitch in the licensing platform of Office 365 relative to just your two accounts. So every time I refresh it, it says you're unlicensed. I add the license and then it takes it away. So just give me, a day or so, I'll call you directly and give you your credentials. Chairman, that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions for our IT vendor? Okay. Moving along. Sorry, I lost my script again. On to Executive Director report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So now we're on the report that says the Executive Director's Report, February 2020. So this report generally talk about the revenue, expense, and cash, and then a number of discussion items, which there are many tonight, and then talk about the resolutions. So the revenue and expense and cash statements are attached due to the length of the discussion items tonight. Pretty much the format is the same. Everything is the same from the last relative just to the numbers. So if anyone has any questions and they want to ask me offline, I'll be more than happy to do that. Relative to the discussion items, so and to the question from the chair earlier. So on Somerset Street, the pump station, the operational issue. So just to recap, after the Somerset pump station, Somerset Street pump station was up and running, we started to realize that we were running higher than at a higher capacity or daily flow than it was originally designed for, based upon the flow studies done much earlier in 2013 and 2015. So we started watching it, and then with the one rain in early December, thereabouts December 9th or 10th, we had a significant rainfall, and we had a sanitary sewer overflow, referred to in the notes as an SSO. Since that time, we've worked the plan. Scott and his team has been very actively engaged with Howard, and they put together a procedure in place so that way when we have a rain event, we can expect well ahead of time if and when there will be an SSO. And this past January 26th? January 5th, we did have to go to bypass. We went to bypass at about 3-ish in the afternoon, 3:30, and came off about 10:30. But it was on about 7.5 hours on bypass. So that process and that monitoring process, and then the physical process of having the guys come in to handle that is working, and we're fairly confident, very confident about our ability to ensure that we don't see an SSO at that sewer again, at that manhole. Now, so we're continuing, as I reported at the last meeting, we started a monitoring system. That has been in place for a few weeks now, 3-4 weeks anyway. Yeah, just about a month, and we've gotten some data. There really hasn't been a large amount of rain events during that period. We're seeing in the daily flow somewhere between 30,000 gallons per day over the expected.
At least.
Right, over the expected engineering flow. So we see that we're still running high. And in the one rain event that, since we were monitoring, we seen it, we saw the spike, and we peaked at about 1.1 million gallons per day flow. And it's, the original estimates on that was for like 700,000 gallons per day. So significantly over the flow per day. So it was good that we had that rain event. Now, every time I see rain in the forecast, as it is this week, I'm always thinking, what's it going to do for our data collection? So we'll be prepared this week. Scott again has his team ready to go if there is what there threatens to be a fairly significant rain Thursday evening into Friday morning. But for us, it's important that we see that flow. Scott has some I'll let him, you're gonna do it during your update, or you want me to do it now? Talk about the update from Carl. Actually,
During my report.
Okay, so he'll give a little more update about the, during his update regarding his discussions with Carl.
And Scott, you get OEM reports, right? You get the OEM for significant weather events that like the town gets also? No.
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 Okay. So I mean, I'm not gonna say that there are like extensive briefings beyond what Noah says, but let's see if we can possibly add you and Brian to the distribution list.
Okay.
We can talk, we can arrange with Lieutenant Rizzo possibly, since you are well, it's not considered, you are essential personnel within the border, so let's see if we can possibly add it. It does, I mean, again, it's the same summary that you can probably get by going to NOAA, but you might get it, you get an extensive, and this way you're coordinated with there. So I will, if I forget, just remind me. Thank you.
All right.
One of us will remember, and if not, I'm sure you won't let me forget. But yeah, we get a couple, like once or twice a day, basically, unless it's gonna be. Plus, we get the distribution. So let's see if we can add you to it. There's nothing super secret sensitive in there. It's published on Facebook anyways most of the time by somebody. So, but this way at least you have it. Okay.
So,
sorry, just one other thing with that. So it seems like you're seeing it almost seems like an instant spike. Is that?
Yeah.
yes.
For the most part, yes.
Okay. And I'll leave it at that because I know
Right.
smarter minds are working on this than me. So, okay.
So relative to that, again, after the flow monitoring is done, and if we get a couple more events, what I'll do is meet with Howard and Scott. We'll work through some of the options that are available for us as a kind of medium and a long-term solution to look at for what to handle this ongoing. And naturally, the price tags, will be correspondent. Long-term solutions will be a much more expensive price tag than the medium solution.
So not to dive too much more, and I know you're going to cover. So we've seen the rough initial shotgun solutions. Excuse my terminology, but the quick. It's more of equipment, not so much the pipes can't handle. Is that a fair assessment? In other words, we have the capacity in the diameter of the pipes as long as the equipment can keep up is the first assumption, not holding it to any lasting decision here. But is that the first assessment that the pipes could potentially handle flow as long as the equipment could keep up with it? Mm-hmm. Is that a fair statement?
Well, I would question maybe depending on what equipment goes in there, if the force main needs to be upsized.
Okay. But
Be the effluent pipe.
okay, but if, let's say we do a just an incremental increase, we're not talking that we got to now put, instead of whatever diameter, we've got to double the size of the diameter. It might be able to still handle based on one, but if we go an extreme route of increasing equipment, then we might have to rethink what the out connection is. Is that?
That would be what my interpretation.
Okay.
I would defer to Howard on that.
You have a fair amount of room to
Okay.
expand the system if you need to, but then you're just expanding the system and then you're pumping rainwater, basically.
Right.
So,
Right. And that's not to say that is it's just, I guess it's trying to piece everything together.
there's a point at which you can't go above, but you have a decent range over which you can increase.
All right, thank you. Does anybody have any other questions on this? Okay.
So,
Is there any effort to isolate where the rainwater might be sitting
That's
in?
what Scott's going to talk about.
Okay.
All right.
So the Western Canal Force Main, as I've given you updates before, we filed the claim, met with the adjuster, and that I did get the report back. That claim has been denied based upon the fact that they're saying it's just standard usage of the pipe, the corrosion, the standard buildup. So they see nothing that was extreme in that and hence denied the claim. Now, having said that, that was after meeting with them, Joe, I, and Scott met with them multiple occasions, and if I was reading in between the lines, I was hearing that all along. So there was no surprise to that decision. I believe I forwarded that on to your office so that you have it officially. All right, I'm gonna jump.
Can we do anything about it? Or?
Talk about the executive.
Okay.
So I'm gonna move around here a little. So after the executive session, and Mr. Chairman, when it's back in your on your plate there, we need to remind you that we need to have action by the Personnel Committee to make the formal recommendation regarding the special project manager's job description, so that can get approved tonight.
Okay.
Because then one of our items in executive session is dependent upon that. We also, as you recall, a few months ago, we let go one of our staff, one of our hires that were on probation. We talked about at that time, we would, that Scott, when he felt there was a need that he wanted to look at restaffing that position, he would come to me, he did. So we've already posted that position and is in the process of reviewing candidates for that position. So just wanted to make you aware of that.
And that was a few weeks ago?
That the position.
When the paper posted 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Scott's getting ready, along with April, to review the list and interviews. I'm hoping that if everything goes well, that we may be able to provide an update on that at the March meeting. Okay. So let me check these off as I go along here. Okay, you recall that last year I introduced the concept of having an engineering intern working in our office. As you met the engineer intern, was a very successful time here. I want to do that again this year. That will be incorporated into the budget, but I wanted to let you know that we are in the process of preparing the job description. It's basically going to be the same duties, but the assignment will change. Last year was focused more on the capacity analysis for each of the pump stations, that report that I wanted done, and this time we'll focus more to a GIS type, asset management type focus. So we've started that process, and we're hoping to get it advertised so that way last year we were a little behind the curve getting that job notice out. This year we want to be ahead of the curve, so that way, though we had a wonderful, we actually had the final 3 candidates were very good. You know, I do want to get that out early. So we're in that. Relative to follow-up to a question last month, we are in, April is working with the broker for quotes on getting the short-term, understanding the short-term, long-term disability options that we've had and what that package looks like now. So that way that can be used naturally for the board and how to proceed. You know, they can review that data and decide how to use that. So
Our
that currently
benefits
is,
election period is calendar? Sorry, our benefits election period is calendar or based on our
it's calendar. I
calendar?
think
So it goes
they
on
have
like
to-
January 1st to?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, like,
Yes.
just wanted to make sure. So, so that'll be for next year that we'll be able to start
Yeah.
making the decision. Okay.
And you understand why we're doing that now, so. Okay, relative to last month, there was a resolution regarding payment for the Rodney supplemental costs that were incurred by CME. So we paid that out. We approved it at the last meeting. The check is actually included in this batch here. But additionally, for the cost that we incurred, we went through the New Jersey Bank for the supplemental loan. So I wanted to give you an update that process, you'll see those papers. So that's all been formalized now, and that's part of what you'll approve tonight. Phase 2, okay, no, actually, let me go back here. All right, so the New Brunswick water update. So as you know, we reported out that prior to the start of Rodney, the completion of Rodney and the completion of Somerset Street and what will happen with Hamilton, that whole rehabilitation and upgrade to our infrastructure was done so that way we would reduce the amount of water or waste that we're sending to New Brunswick which ultimately flows to the same place, MCUA, but we go directly to MCUA directly, right? So when Rodney was done, and went online, basically April of last year, and then Somerset, which was basically August of last year, we now had a significant reduction in the flow that was going through New Brunswick. So we were getting bills based upon the average for the previous years. So and all along I've had Christian look at the analysis to say, okay, listen, this is what they're asking to pay. Does it look like it's right? New Brunswick actually just stopped actually providing the details and just started sending us a bill. So what I had Christian do is to review the data, and based upon our GIS data, knowing now the reduction of EDUs that are going to New Brunswick and the increase to MCUA, we wanted to reduce that to that payment to New Brunswick. So there is a bill, there's an invoice in your packet now where New Brunswick billed us for roughly 300 and change, whether that was 350 or 320, 3 and change. We're making a payment of a little more than $128,000. And that is done. With that payment, there is our letter to New Brunswick that says, here's our data and why we're doing it, all right? And here's what's gonna happen in October when we turn up Hamilton. There'll be a further reduction. So that way they have the data, and then if there is gonna be any issues, at least they've been notified that this is why we're doing this. Because ultimately, we are just getting a bill without any data associated with it at all. So I wanted to make you aware of that we're going to pay that bill. If at that point, New Brunswick gets in touch with us to say that they wanna challenge us, then I will bring it to Eric's attention, so that way we can say, here, this is all ours, and then Eric has also gotten a copy of that letter, right, Christian?
I'm gonna forward it.
Okay, so you'll have that tomorrow, of the backup of what we sent to them, so that way it's clear why we're doing what we're doing. But we're very confident in the data, that the analysis that we did as to, we used their rates that they were charging us based upon a previous, when they used to have the details, and we took it all and we said, this is what we're doing. So I wanted to make you aware of that, because it's important for the board to understand that reduction in that payment, because if we don't successfully negotiate that reduction or do it, then we're double paying. Because MCUA, our partners on that end, they know they're seeing the increase and they've already billed us. So, we don't want to be paying, double.
So can they, if they meter what they process and they give us the meter reading and prove that they are actually processing that much, would we have to then pay?
So
back to the
I don't believe they metered the exact flow.
These crosses are unmetered.
Right.
Oh, they are.
So it was at a high level, right? And I'm not an expert at this, but my recollection when I looked at this was, there was some agreement based upon some census number
I see.
that was done in 1964. Like the original contract I had was typewritten, like it's old. It was done on a typewriter. So that's why I'm very confident in the analysis that we've done, because we know now, based upon our residents, our dwelling units, that, yep, these are the houses or the residents that are flowing there. We know that it's now at about 600, and it's a 600 number of residents, right? And it's going to be reduced after we go to, it's going to be like a 441 after we do Hamilton. So we know, we know what residents are flowing there.
So I guess the question here is, can you refresh my memory as to how many connections we'll have left after we cut over to Hamilton's Plum Street?
441.
No, so how many crossings though? Sorry, how many crossings?
How many crossings? Well, two or three? Two.
Okay, here's the
Ford Avenue and by Landing Lane.
here's the non engineering question. Is it extremely impossible to put meters or flow meters in those two connections then?
Is it impossible?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Is it extremely difficult? Sorry, I'm not going to change level. I'm not trying to play semantics here. But is it worthwhile us invest, even if we have to pay for it, to invest in putting 2 meters there to actually figure out what the real rate is, so that we can pay a true cost like what we have, or?
So that certainly is an option, but what I would say is the standard unit of 225 gallons per equivalent EDU, yeah.
Okay.
That's accepted in the industry.
Okay.
So I would say that based upon the fact we know after this is done, we will have 441. The math is simple. 441 times 225 gives you total. By their dollar amount, there's the bill.
Okay.
So I would, at this point, I would not make that recommendation that we do this. Now, if negotiations or discussions with New Brunswick becomes a little more intense and that we have to go to that step, then we could evaluate that at that time.
Okay.
Sounds fair.
No, that's fine. It's just more because I know MCUA, we've got meters on those. So, and since we went from 9 connections down to 2, or pretty close to that. It's okay.
Okay. Phase 2 of the office configurations is planned for completion at the end of this month. I did report last month it would be done at the end of January. However, in looking at some of the billing cycles that we were going through here, that was kind of too an aggressive schedule to put on our billing unit staff. We would have had to do some moving around, and it just, for the sake of reorganizing or redoing the offices, it just wasn't that critical to upset their day by doing all that. So we just shifted a little.
And Christian, we want your interior decorated.
A little more color, right?
All right. And then phase 2 of the enhanced security system work is complete with an asterisk, other than some training and activation. So there is some minor work that has to be done, but for the most part, like 98.5% of it is complete. They have to come back and take care of some actual items. In your report, it talks a little more about what that safety stuff is. I'm not going to explain. I'm not going to bring that now out for obvious reasons. But if anybody has any questions about that, they can ask me. I have vacation planned from the week of the 10th to the 14th. I actually will be out of the country from the 8th until the 17th, returning to work on the 18th. And the budget, the 2021 budget process has started. We downloaded the app and started to look at it, and that will probably become my focus after the return from my vacation. Let's see, so I touched all that, All right. Did I forget anything? Resolutions, you're going to see the standard resolutions today for payroll, operating expense, general fund, renewal and replacement, Nortrack and escrow. For our new commissioners, the discussion on what these accounts are can get fairly detailed, so naturally, if you want to set aside a time to come and discuss that with myself, I can give you an update on that as to what they are. You'll see a resolution for our Ram truck that was approved as part of the budget and has gone through the resolution changing that. There's also a resolution for awarding the contract for odor control chemicals to who? Oh, Quiver, right? Evoca, who we've had. We continue to have good with them. Resolution to remove St. Shalom, the Maronite Church, located at the intersection of basically what's Franklin and Easton. As there was a cap on them, so we had to be able to refund the associated fees from billing per our rate rules and regulations. There's also a resolution to authorize the development agreement for fleet Fleet Franklin Limited Liability Country. So this is that development that everybody's talking about in town that's directly across the street from Starbucks, all right, where all those next to the landscaping place. So that's this. So this is the development agreement for that. 34 townhomes are gonna go in. And as part of that, we're gonna receive an impact fee of roughly, I think, 34,000.
I think it was a little more,
Yes, somewhere around that.
70,000.
And they're just connecting into, I guess the pipe goes right up New Brunswick Road, right? So
No, actually,
No?
there's an easement out the back they got from their neighbor to go out
Okay.
to Pierce and around. So actually, what's good about this, because I had somebody in town call me, a friend of mine called me, he says, listen, my sister lives in that, and she's complaining to me, and she doesn't, and I said, well, he wanted to know if there was capacity in the pipe they were concerned about, and that would that capacity flow and affect their capacity across the town. I was like, no, it's all good. So there's an easement going out the back, and there is no pump station. It just flows directly into the crossing. So that's all good. All right, and then the save the date, again, for our new commissioners, if you're interested in this, just talk to April afterwards, but there's 2 AEA conferences a year. There's the one here in March, which is March 10th to 11th, and then there's the larger one in November. So as a commissioner, naturally, if you want to attend that, we work with April, and she'll do the hotel reservations and all that stuff where you pay off for that. Right, and finally, yes, there is a closed session. We will deal with a update on the union contract and an update on some personnel issues.
Okay. Any questions for the executive director? And again, to our new, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, and then you also had a report on your connection fee update. So you have that. There was three and a half new connections this month. Yeah, and a half for all our new connections. This is not half a connection. It's based upon affordable housing units. Thank you. I just went blank on that. I'm getting scared. I was reading something about the commissioner.
So any other questions for our executive director? And to our new commissioners, I would encourage you to, if you have time, to reach out to the executive director if he can give you some background, and also possibly at least take a couple tour some of the
More than happy.
Trust me, the Evoco that we spend a lot on, the pump stations do not smell. They are, and Scott and the guys maintain them really well, so they're clean. I think what I found a chart recorder that was the biggest thing that I asked you about.
Service, but wasn't labeled as service.
And that was the only thing that I asked him about. We toured I think 16 pump stations that over 2 days. So they're really well maintained, but this way you can at least see some of the systems. So, all right, moving along. Operations report. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. After Brian's long report, tell me when you want me to shut up. For January of 2020, I'm going to give you a briefing. There's a report in everybody's packet under operations. For Meadow Avenue, I've been reporting since just before Thanksgiving of 2019 that our primary controller at Meadow Avenue had failed. We had ordered a new system. System had to be built, tested, and it has been installed and working the way it's supposed to. Under Bennett's Lane, another pump station around the corner, we had a failure to our VFD. We had to have one of our vendors come in to do the troubleshooting and actually made the repair. That was Municipal Maintenance Company. 6 Mile Run. I reported, I believe, the previous 2 months that we were having some intermittent electrical failures. They were very hard to diagnose and troubleshoot because they were happening when we weren't on site. So we worked with our emergency contractor and came up with the auxiliary contactors. Was a very minimal cost for repair to change those out. Those have been changed in early January, and we haven't had an issue since. So we attribute everything to the auxiliary contactors. School Avenue. There's a lot written there in the report. This is, as you know, as part of the Rodney Avenue Pump Station project, we added a new flow meter at the School Avenue Pump Station, as both force mains discharged to the same location. We were having issues with it reading flow, In talking with the manufacturer, they recommended to us to do a visual inspection of the meter as well as do a cleaning of it. To do that, this pipe sits about 16 feet up in the air down in the dry well of the pump station. So what we had to do first was we had a vendor come in and do a wet tap on the bottom of the pipe so we can drain it. Okay? After closing the valves, we drained it. And then our guys worked off of harnesses and safety ropes to dismantle the spool piece of pipe that sits next to the flow meter so that we can get into the flow meter and do the inspection as well as clean it. And what we found was a bunch of grease basically just accumulated to the flow meter, wasn't allowing it to read flow. This was a challenging task for us. We did it in-house other than the wet tap. As I explained to Brian, we were very happy at our accomplishments when we were done. And as I said to Brian, just knowing people in the industry, I don't know too many authorities that will attempt to do what we did in-house. You know, we've done this for a lot of years. We try to keep costs down here for the authority. But you know, this was a long day, but the results worked out, and we're reading flow again.
Yeah, just a point on that. So Scott and his team, you know, this really is something that generally, you know, 99.9% of the other authorities would have, you know, outsourced. They would have had a vendor come in and possibly spend, you know, somewhere between 15 grand or you know, to do that for their time and their equipment and all that. And we had our folk, you know, Scott, you know, knew that it was technically challenging. But again, with the staff that we have and the training that we put all our folks through, they were able to, you know, first design what they had to do, the process, and how to get at it, and then they actually did the labor. So, you know, I think it really, Scott and his team really deserve a lot of kudos here for you know, their commitment to the authority and to really saving us money and, you know, trying to do as much as they can, continual, right, of what they do to save the authority money.
Thank you. Under our Sunflower pump station, I reported last month that we were taking part in a demo of our aeration system in one of our wet wells. It's a smaller wet well, smaller pump station that handles about 27 single-family homes. The results we were getting from the demonstration was very overwhelming. It was, you know, very positive. I reached out to the vendor, asked if we can relocate the equipment to a larger pump station with more flow, larger grease problem, and they were fine with that. So we are continuing our demonstration at the Pine Street pump station over near Matilda Avenue. Okay, and I will update you next month on our results there. Somerset, as we started to talk about before. So we've now had a total of 5 instances where we had to go on a bypass, what we'll call our bypass event. It's basically where the pump station just can't handle the flow that's coming to it. I just want to make one thing clear from what Brian was saying. Is we had one overflow, one sanitary sewer overflow, and that was in early December. That's when we discovered that we had this issue. We have not had an issue since then because we go on bypass. Okay, so we added some redundancy in alarms with float balls and so forth that come to our alarm system, which contact us to get there before there's a problem. Okay, and it's worked out great. Unfortunately, we have to go through this, but our plan is working. I met with Carl earlier in the month, Carl and one of his foremen, talking about, you know, possibly putting sensors out in the area, the drainage area that we're talking about that flows through Somerset Street to identify if there's any water breaks, leaks, and so forth, as we did in our Foxwood rehab area. They were very receptive. I provided them with a map. They've been putting out, you know, as they have manpower to do so, you know. They've been putting sensors out, meters out. They've been physically had guys out there doing testing. They've come up with some breaks. They have not been addressed yet, but they found them, okay? They made 2 repairs so far on Douglas, near Douglas and Ray Street. And the other 2 that I found out today that they noticed is on Home and Somerset Street and Main Street and Somerset Street, very close to nearest our pump station. The severity of it won't really know until they dig it up and do the repairs. So we are working with them, because that's not helping, obviously, it's already a high groundwater table over there, so this is not helping any issues that we have. I think there were some questions that you may have had in reference to Somerset Street.
Well, so the one was just how many events, but you addressed that of how many we've been out there.
5, yeah. So this last event, which was last weekend, was 0.98 inches of rain, just under an inch. And like Brian said, it was about 7.5 hours where we were actually on bypass. Now, with that said, is when we come off bypass, we know the level we can be at. We can see we switch over to the pump station. We see that the pumps are keeping up. Doesn't mean we're back to normal, right? We're still on a high level. We still have a lot of flow, but the pump station is able to keep up. Okay, so that just relieves our manpower from us paying guys the overtime, from us running a diesel pump, separate from running the pump station. So it's a long process from start to finish.
So the other thing then, I'm sure you've talked to Carl about this also, but he mentioned during one of our meetings that one of our DPW meetings that New Brunswick might have had water main breaks over there also.
So we noticed the same thing. Actually, if you drive down Somerset Street tomorrow, if the sun is out, you'll notice that the road is just bleeding water right in front of the bus lot, the Joy Bus Transport. First thing we did was we put the camera in the main. That line, that 12-inch main was relined when we did the rehab back in 2014.
Okay.
Obviously, there's services connected, blah, blah, blah. We TV'd that. We showed, following the rain event, we showed no infiltration in that area.
Okay.
So it's leaking somewhere. I don't think it's coming to us.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, if you need assistance with that, then we can find certain people. We can even go to the state level and reach out to them for assistance in working with New Brunswick government over there. So, but you have resources that you need. But yeah, I mean, we got to keep working on this and try and tap away at it. It's just, again, it's interesting that it's instantaneous. It's almost, again, it doesn't go back to nothing, but it's almost a near instantaneous, which is not what we...
Inflow.
Right, and that's not what we were seeing in Foxwood, right? Like, it took a little bit to kick in, or...
Yes and no.
Okay.
We had
Okay.
yes and no.
No, that's fine. Okay. So we'll keep charging away at this.
We are working with our CCTV equipment and TVing the mains as well as some of the laterals that we have access to.
Okay.
All right. Under our odor and corrosion control, we had no odor complaints for the month. We did, with our monthly service, we found that we were able to reduce our feed rates at 3 of our larger sites, which is basically a seasonal savings for the authority. We're able to do that during colder temperatures.
I'm just curious about the odor control or the odor situation. You said you didn't get any complaints. Do you tend to get more complaints when there's low flow or high flow?
So really, it's during warmer temperatures, so the summer months. Knock on wood, if you'll see it in history, we've kind of mastered with our chemical company to alleviate odor complaints, where we're not getting any. Okay, so we maintain our pump stations. Our guys constantly cleaning the wells to stop any anything from becoming septic or the sewer to just sit there. So we're not experiencing any at this time, and typically we really don't.
And something to note is, I think one of our worst odors a long time ago was near the Landing Lane area that people would constantly complain about. And in 13 years now of driving through there, that's gotten significantly better in the summer.
Because of all the testing.
Yeah.
So our chemical company, we have an agreement for them to be out once a month. We have what we call odor loggers that go in the outfall manholes of where the force mains discharge. We're constantly sampling those and testing those and adjusting feed rates so that, through the colder months, we're able to reduce our feed rates. But in the summer months, we're pumping a little more product to keep those odors down.
Yep. But Scott knows that I drive through there 3 days a week, and I'll call him. And
I gotta know his schedule just to keep it right.
Yeah, I randomize it, but no. In all seriousness, that was one that I remember growing up around here was always, and we don't typically, unless it's really an extreme day, and even then they keep up with it. So the investments, while pricey, it's been worth it to the residents also. So.
Under developer and inspection related issues, just various inspections performed by our staff. for the various developers, whether it was final inspections or just sanitary sewer being installed in the ground. Under collection system related issues, our gravity sewer flushing 2-year township-wide program. During the month, our staff flushed and cleaned 39,704 feet of main sewer line as part of our preventive maintenance program. We are currently at 49% of our overall goal of that 2-year program that we started back in January of 2019. Slightly behind schedule, slightly, but as everybody knows, we were dealing with Weston Canal over the summer months, which kind of put some other things on hold. We were called out to a resident out in the Griggstown section of town, 1 Dogwood Lane. They were experiencing wet, saturated ground around their E1 grinder pump with a sewer odor, obviously. Our guys went out there. We determined, we've seen this before. Basically what happened was the force main fitting leaving the grinder station had broken underground, so when the pump came on, basically it was bubbling up out of the ground. Our guys excavated because we are responsible for those systems. We excavated, made the repair. The resident was very pleased. We performed our water meter reading for both the influent and effluent meters as part of the industrial billing cycle this month. We had some time this month where we performed some injection grouting of several manholes in the Somerset Street area where we were able to stop infiltration in those manholes. The gentleman, our staff performed, actually completed the remaining check valve services and clean outs of all our smaller pump stations. As I just mentioned about I talked to Carl this morning from the DPW about the water breaks that they're going to be working on. We also worked with Carl. We help each other out in many cases with different equipment that we have that they don't, and vice versa. They trained 2 of our guys earlier, 2 weeks ago, trained 2 of our guys to use their crack sealing machine so that we can go through all our pump stations, which we have 22 active pump stations right now, and fill the cracks in the pavement to preserve the pavement. As well as we started doing the parking lot here, we ran out of time. Once he's done with it, we'll get it back and complete the driveway here. But it preserves the pavement. Under complaints and alarms, we responded to a resident out of 61st Street. The resident had several problems over the course of the month, and instead of calling us, they kept calling the plumber. Every time the plumber came out, they did something, got him serviced temporarily, and it would fail again shortly after that. Finally, we got the call when the plumber started telling them that their pipe was broken out in the street and it was going to cost them X amount of dollars. That's when they called us. So what we did is we went out there, we used our CCTV equipment, we went in from the main, we entered their lateral with our lateral launch system, and determined there was no broken pipe. We got it on video. We showed the homeowner, who was very pleased. Basically, they were trying to sell him a pipe that he didn't need. It just needed to be cleaned. So, the gentleman, again, was very thankful. Couldn't believe that we responded in a timely fashion, but, that this is what we do, right? So the resident complaints come a priority. On January 17th, both our main facility here as well as the pump station across the street ran about 9 hours on generator power, as there was an accident right out front here when a tractor trailer coming out of L'Oreal got to hook up his tractor and trailer. So when he made the turn, the tractor came off and took the pole out, which took 2 poles out, which put us on backup power for 9 hours. But we have the emergency generator here, so we didn't really skip a beat.
No issues at the pump station then? No impacted?
Yep. Under our safety for the month, there were no accidents or injuries for the month of January. January 7th, we had a vendor come in and do the mandatory annual inspection of all our fire extinguishers. On the 23rd, the vendor came in and did the mandatory annual OSHA inspections on all our overhead hoists at the pump stations. And on the 23rd, we also had the mandatory annual diesel emissions testing on the required vehicles, along with the safety inspections. For connections for the month, as Brian had mentioned, we had 3.5. Total to date is 170.5. Anticipated for the fiscal year is 372.
Sweating?
I'm sorry?
Sweating?
So,
Sweating?
Sweating yet?
Not me, you?
yeah. So like kind of a footnote to that. So it is unlikely we will hit that number. We got a revised number from one of our retail folks who said that their number was very, very aggressive. And I'll have better insight at the next meeting.
Okay.
But we're not hitting that number.
Okay.
Can you explain what that means, the connections, the current months, and...
So part of the way we earn revenue is, one way is, well, multiple ways, right? You pay a user fee. If you own a resident here, you get billed quarterly and you pay it, so that's one way. When also we have new buildings, new hotels, you know, on right across from the Starbucks, their new development's gonna go in, there are gonna be new connections. So every time there's a new connection to our system, there is an algorithm that's figured out, defined by law, that says this is how you determine how much you pay for it. And right now, that number is roughly $2,866 per connection. So every time there's a connection, we get that. So when a developer comes in, like the one in Fleetwood that's gonna come in, they're gonna owe us, 34 times 2866. So that's a connection fee.
Okay.
And the asterisk on it is affordable housing, they pay half. So if it's a connection, it's a half a connection, and thereby half the rate.
Thank you.
Which I still appreciate you doing the research to get that, because that half a house that 1 year, or that half a connection that 1 year, it looked weird, and now we understand.
Christian came up with that.
Thank you, guys. All right, any other questions for Scott? Okay, moving along. Next up, committee reports, negotiations and personnel.
Yeah, Chairman. So we had a preliminary meeting with the union folks that are representing our technicians on the field. So they gave us their list of asks at this time. So we talked, we have spoken about it, and I think we will set up a follow-up meeting within the next 2 to 3 weeks after discussion with our council.
Okay. Municipal
Put
lead.
together our asks.
What?
Put together our asks.
Yes, and then we can set up the next meeting to start working on going between the two. All right, municipal liaison. So we've got a bunch. As you know, they're working on trying to figure out the leak at the Summer Street area. So that's that. The one request that I have is, and Christian, thank you again for putting together that report. We'll share it with the board next month. But if we can set up to have Mark Healy and Vince Dominic come and present to the board for like 10 minutes or 15 minutes, either at the March or the April meeting, for what the vision is for redevelopment of the town, because there are still some big projects. This way we can, well, as you're doing the project, so.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Yep. So this way the board can understand what's coming in. You don't have to listen to us talk. I'd rather have the people that are boots on the ground taking care of it. This way we can also start investing in the capital, figuring out the capital budget, because Brian had already worked on it and he knows what needs to be done. And working with Scott and team, it's more of if we have to start investing in the system as well for capacity wise, so that we don't block any projects. So,
Yeah. So,
Yep.
but just as a follow-up to that, because I probably should have mentioned it. So, Christian and I, Scott, did meet with Vince early to talk about a certain area in Hamilton. So out of that came a follow-up that earlier in the summer I had sent a formal request to have the sewage authority have representation on the Hamilton Street committee. And during that discussion, that request came up again. So Vince said he will follow up on it. But given the growth they're having on that, I strongly urge the board, the chair, to speak to the township that it's important, because right now there are plans in place that we do not have the capacity to handle. So it's really important that we are. Now, in the meantime, I've worked it with Christian that he will attend those meetings just as a resident, or just as public, so that every meeting now until we get that appointment done. But I strongly urge the board to move on that, because
so
the future growth is critical that we partner together.
Yep. So can you extend that invitation to them for I guess send it to Bob and and to either the March or the April meeting, at their convenience. Okay, but I think that's it for municipal liaison. Yep, okay.
I'll probably target March, because as you know already, I won't be here at the April meeting.
Yep, okay. Sure.
We need to take an action approving the project, special project manager position.
Do we need to do that now? Or?
Before we end the meeting, yes.
Right. I'm finishing up the committee report.
I don't want a resolution if I'm pointing it out.
You what?
It's not one of the resolutions.
Okay, yep. So construction, you attended the meeting? Do we-
Yeah, I was there in one of the meetings about the Hamilton Street Pump Station update. I think Brian already reported the status on that, so nothing new on that.
Okay, and
We are on
safety?
schedule.
Safety, everybody's been safe, so good job with that. All right. All right, so I can first do the consent agenda, then you want me to include it in the next group,
Well, the
correct?
reason I suggested this point, Mr. Chairman, was it's not on the consent agenda, it's not on the additional resolutions.
Okay,
And it's sort of a personnel-related matter, so
okay,
that's why I'm...
so we can do that now. So, okay, so we need to, it's the motion to approve the job description. Go ahead, I'll let you,
Want copies of the description?
if you can please
I
distribute.
have them.
Yep.
The authority has determined that there is a need for the creation of a position called special project manager. Based on same, a job description was created, an advertisement was placed in various publications relative to advertisement for such. There were resumes submitted. Mr. Regan will go into that discussion in executive session as part of the personnel. But before we go into the executive session to have the conversation, the board needs to authorize the creation of the position of special project manager.
So this position, we had approved for the previous budget, or in this year's budget, we had approved it, so this job description was written in conjunction between our attorney, our executive director, and the personnel committee. This basically, it describes a role to oversee ongoing construction projects as well as in-house projects that need to go on and coordinate with our professional engineers. So this will have us somebody permanently in-house taking care of that and coordinating with all our professional engineers, or professional staff, and making sure all parties that need to be included are included. So, if there's no questions,
I have a question.
yes.
So who was handling these responsibilities prior to creating this position?
It was spread out over multiple personnel, so this ties it all into one. It structures it so that there's one sole person handling it, and then this way it's consistency throughout upcoming projects, because we have a fair amount of projects up and coming. As you'll see in the capital budget, 3 pump stations have to be rehabbed? No, I'm being serious. At least three immediate.
East Wilson and Commerce. And,
What? Commerce?
East Wilson and Commerce.
Okay, so 2.
But there are a number of rehab projects.
Right.
I'm happy the engineers will.
Right. So we have at least 2 major rehab, in addition to those.
Right.
We have at least 2 major rehabilitation projects.
As well as an ongoing construction project, and we have stuff around here that needs to be handled, so it brings it all in, and this way we can have a consistency with that. Okay, any other questions? If not, is there a motion to approve the job description and position of special projects manager?
Motion.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, roll call please.
Mr. Alcazar?
Yes.
Ms. Van Barenson?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
And Chairman Gautier?
Yes. Okay. Now, can I go on to the consent agenda?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, before you, the approval of the resolutions will be done by consent agenda. All the items listed below are considered to be of routine nature, thereby requiring one motion and 1 second for all items. If any member wishes to remove an item from the consent agenda or has a question about an item, please advise me at this time which resolution needs to be handled separately or that you have a question regarding, and they will be addressed and voted on separately. Payroll account, $133,765.92. Operating expense account, $330,245.37. General Fund, $135,776.20. Renewal and replacement, $606,390.70. North Track Crossing, $2,251.47. And the escrow account of $23,728.92. Is there a motion to approve the, well, are there any questions on the consent agenda? All right, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar?
Yes.
Mr. Ambaranson?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri?
Yes. And to our new commissioners, those leaving like big numbers, have been assured that we can handle all this, right?
That we can
We can.
pay them, yes.
Yes, okay. All right, additional resolutions. Is there a motion to approve the resolution rejecting the bid submitted by Route 23 Auto Mall LLC and authorizing the executive director to execute an agreement with Bayer of Morristown LLC for a new unused Ram Series or equivalent model 3500 four-wheel drive regular cab chassis with 60-inch cab 2-axle on behalf of the Franklin Township Sewerage Authority?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar?
Yes.
Mr. Ambaranson?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri?
Yes. Is there a motion to approve the resolution awarding the contract for odor control chemicals at a cost of $2.56 per gallon of dioxide, not to exceed $1,024,000, and $3.73 per gallon of hydrogen peroxide, not to exceed $1,492,000?
The total bid not to exceed $2,516,000.
Thank you. It is hereby awarded to Evoqua Water Technologies, 29650 Talvis Road, Sarasota, Florida. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's a nice town.
Is, roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar?
Yes.
Mr. Ambaranson?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri?
Yes. Is there a motion to approve the resolution to remove St. Charbel Maronite Church located at 217 Blake Avenue, Somerset, New Jersey, and associated fees of $321 from billing? This was, apparently was capped on 12/16/2019. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar?
Yes.
Mr. Ambaranson?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri?
Yes. Is there a motion to approve the resolution to authorize the execution of the capacity allocation developers on-track and off-track agreement between Franklin Township Sewage Authority and Fleet Franklin LLC regarding the property designated block 46807, lots 46 and 7 of the official tax map of the Township of Franklin, and authorize the chair and the secretary to execute on behalf of the authority as approved during February 4th, 2020 board meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar?
Yes.
Mr. Ambaranson?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri?
Yes. All right. Fun time. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
Reasons for going into executive session, Mr. Chairman, are union negotiations between the Franklin Township Sewage Authority and United Worker Service Union, Local 255, potential hiring of a special project manager, an issue involving a personnel matter as to AR, and a discussion with the attorney relative to the Western Canal Force Main claim. Formal action will be taken at the conclusion of this meeting. Ms. Roach, have the appropriate parties been raised for this?
No.
You will waive it. Danielson will waive it. With that, Mr. Chairman, a motion and a second.
Motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Alcazar?
Here.
Mr. Ambaranson?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
And Chairman Galtieri?
Yes.